The stars had belonged to the Valkorian Empire for 12,000 years. Their ships filled the darkness between worlds like silver dust scattered across black cloth. Their armies had crushed 100 different species. Their emperor sat on a throne made from the metals of conquered planets. No one had ever challenged them and lived. When their sensors first detected the human race, the Valkorians laughed. These creatures were soft and weak. They lived for less than 100 years. They had only discovered space travel 3 centuries ago. They were nothing. They were insects, but insects can be annoying. And the humans were spreading. They built colonies on distant worlds. They sent ships deeper and deeper into space. They were moving toward Valkorian territory. High Sovereign Malthois IX sat in his crystal palace and made a decision. He would send a message to these humans. They would surrender. They would become slaves like all the others. Or they would die. The message traveled across space at the speed of light. It reached a human ship called the Thais S. Defiance. This was the flagship of the Terran fleet, the most powerful vessel humanity had ever built. And on its bridge stood Admiral Elena Vance. Elena was 53 years old. Her hair was gray at the edges. Her eyes were dark brown and very calm. She had fought pirates near Mars. She had saved a colony ship from an asteroid storm. She had never lost a battle. But she had never faced anything like this. The hologram appeared in the center of the bridge. It showed a Valkorian ambassador. His body was made of living crystal. Light moved inside him like trapped lightning. He stood 8 feet tall and looked down at Elena like she was a small and dirty animal. "Creatures of Earth," the ambassador said. His voice was cold and sharp. "You have expanded into space that belongs to the Valkorian Empire. This is not permitted. You will surrender all your colonies. You will give us your ships. You will accept our rule. You have 30 cycles to obey." The bridge was silent. Elena's crew stared at the hologram with wide eyes. They had heard stories about the Valkorians. Everyone in the galaxy had heard stories. The Valkorians did not make empty threats. When they said a species would die, that species died. The ambassador continued. "If you refuse, we will send the Grand Armada, 10,000 warships. We will burn your colonies. We will destroy your fleet. We will turn your homeworld into ash. No one will remember you ever existed." Elena stood very still. She listened to every word. She watched the light move inside the ambassador's crystal body. She thought about Earth. She thought about her daughter, who was 12 years old and loved to paint pictures of horses. She thought about all the humans who had ever lived and died and dreamed of reaching the stars. Then she smiled. It was a small smile, calm and quiet. But something in that smile made the ambassador stop talking. Something in that smile did not make sense to him. "Tell your emperor," Elena said, "that humanity accepts his challenge." The ambassador's body flickered. The light inside him moved in strange patterns. "You accept? You do not understand. We are offering you slavery. The alternative is death." "I understand perfectly," Elena said. "And we accept your challenge. Bring your armada. We will be waiting." The hologram disappeared. The bridge remained silent for a long moment. Then Commander Yuki Tanaka spoke. She was Elena's second in command. A small woman with short black hair and quick eyes. "Admiral," Yuki said carefully, "did you just declare war on the most powerful empire in the galaxy?" "Yes," Elena said. "I did. We have 800 ships. They have 10,000. I know. Our ships are smaller. Our weapons are weaker. We have been traveling in space for 300 years. They have been doing it for 12,000. I know all of this, Commander." Yuki stepped closer to Elena. She lowered her voice. "Then why did you smile? Why did you look happy? Elena turned to face her old friend. The calm had not left her eyes. Because they made a mistake, Yuki. A very big mistake. What mistake? They think we are like the others. They think we will beg or run or surrender. They have conquered 100 species, and every single one of those species did the same thing. They saw the Valkorian power, and they gave up hope. Elena walked to the main window of the bridge. Outside, the stars burned in the darkness. Somewhere out there, the Grand Armada was preparing to destroy everything she loved. But humans are different, she said. We have always been different. When we face something bigger than us, something stronger than us, something that should crush us, we do not give up. We fight harder. We find ways to win that no one expected. We have been doing this since we lived in caves and hunted animals with sharp stones. She turned back to her crew. They were all watching her now. Young faces and old faces. Scared faces and brave faces. All of them waiting to see what would happen next. The Valkorians have never lost a war, Elena said. But they have never fought humans. They do not know what we are. They do not know what we can do. And that is their mistake. She pressed a button on her console. A signal went out to every human ship, every colony, every station in space. Her voice traveled across the stars. This is Admiral Elena Vance. The Valkorian Empire has demanded our surrender. I have refused. They are sending their fleet to destroy us. They believe we will fall easily. They are wrong. She paused. Across human space, billions of people were listening. Mothers held their children. Soldiers checked their weapons. Scientists looked up from their work. We did not come this far to give up now, Elena continued. We did not survive ice ages and plagues and wars just to kneel before some aliens who think they own the universe. We are humanity. We have always faced impossible odds. And we have always found a way. She took a deep breath. Prepare for war. Not because we know we will win, but because some things are worth fighting for, even when the fight seems hopeless. This is our moment. This is our test. And I know, deep in my heart, that we will pass it. The transmission ended. And across human space, something changed. Fear was still there. But something else was growing. Something stronger than fear. Hope. And on the bridge of the TS, Defiance. Admiral Elena Vance looked out at the stars and smiled again. The same calm, quiet smile that had confused the Valkorian ambassador. The war was coming, and humanity was ready. The news spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. A young species called humans had refused to surrender to the Valkorian Empire. They had accepted the challenge. They were going to fight. On 1,000 different worlds, aliens watched their screens and shook their heads. Some laughed at human stupidity. Some felt sad for the doomed creatures. A few felt something else. Something they had not felt in a very long time. But they pushed that feeling down and looked away. The Valkorian Empire began to move. Shipyards that had been quiet for centuries came back to life. The Grand Armada gathered at the edge of human space. 10,000 warships. Each one was larger than a human city. Each one carried enough weapons to burn a planet to glass. High Commander Varth led the Armada. He was ancient even by Valkorian standards. His crystal body was dark blue, almost black. He had destroyed 12 civilizations in his long life. He had never known defeat. When he looked at the star maps showing human territory, he saw only another easy victory. How long until we reached their homeworld? Varth asked his officers. 40 cycles, High Commander. Varth made a sound like glass scraping against glass. It was his way of laughing. Make it 30. I want this finished quickly. These humans are not worth our time. But while the Armada prepared for an easy war, Something strange was happening in human space. Something the Valkorians did not expect and could not understand. Humanity was coming together. For centuries, humans had been divided. Nations argued with nations. Colonies fought over resources. Old hatreds and old fears kept people apart. But when the Valkorian threat arrived, all of that changed in a single day. The president of the Earth Federation called an emergency meeting. Leaders from every nation attended. They spoke for only 3 hours. Then they signed a document that would change history forever. It was called the Unity Accord. We are no longer Americans or Chinese or Russian or African, the president announced to the world. We are human. We are one people. And we will face this enemy together. Factories that had made cars and phones and toys stopped their work. They started making weapons and ships and armor. Scientists who had competed against each other for money and fame now shared their research freely. Soldiers from different nations trained together, learning to fight as one army. On Mars, a young engineer named David Chun worked for 3 days without sleep. He had an idea for a new type of engine. It would make human ships faster than anything the Valkorians had ever seen. His team told him it was impossible. He did it anyway. On the moon base called Armstrong, a group of pilots practiced a new kind of flying. They called it swarm tactics. Instead of flying in neat formations like the Valkorians, they moved in random patterns. They attacked from every direction at once. They were unpredictable. They were Chaos Dot and on the TSS Defiance. Admiral Elena Vance gathered her commanders for a meeting. The room was small and simple. A metal table, hard chairs, maps of space glowing on the walls. Elena stood at the head of the table and looked at the faces around her. These were the best officers in the Terran fleet. Each one was smart and brave and completely loyal to humanity. We have 800 ships, Elena said. They have 10,000. Our ships are smaller. Our crews are less experienced. On paper, we cannot win this war. Commander Yuki Tanaka nodded slowly. So, what is the plan? Elena touched a button. The maps on the wall changed. They showed the route the Valkorian armada would take to reach Earth. The Valkorians have won 100 wars, Elena said. They have a system, a pattern. They fly in perfect formations. They follow rules that have not changed in thousands of years. Their commanders are trained to fight in one specific way. She pointed to a section of space filled with asteroids. And that is exactly what we will use against them. For the next hour, Elena explained her plan. She called it Project Prometheus. The human fleet would not meet the armada in open space. They would not fight in formations. They would hide. They would wait. And when the moment was right, they would attack from everywhere at once. We will be like water, Elena said. We will flow around them. We will hit them where they do not expect. We will retreat before they can respond. And then we will hit them again. Commander James Miller raised his hand. He was the oldest officer in the room. Gray hair, scarred face. 30 years of fighting. Admiral, even with perfect tactics, we will lose ships. A lot of ships. The numbers are against us. I know, Elena said quietly. Some of us will not survive this war. Maybe most of us. But that is not the point. She looked around the table. Her eyes were serious and sad and absolutely determined. The point is to show the galaxy what humans can do. The point is to make the Valkorians bleed. The point is to prove that even the smallest species can stand against the mightiest empire. Because if we do that, if we show them that we will not break, then others might find their courage too. The room was silent. Every officer was thinking about what Elena had said. They were thinking about their families, their homes, the lives they might never see again. Commander Tanaka spoke first. I am with you, Admiral. Until the end. One by one, the other officers said the same thing. They stood up from their chairs. They saluted Elena, and in their eyes, there was no fear. There was only determination. The meeting ended. The officers returned to their ships. And across human space, the final preparations began. Mothers kissed their children goodbye. Soldiers wrote letters to loved ones. Priests and rabbis and imams prayed for victory. And in the silence of space, 800 human ships moved toward their hiding places in the asteroid fields. The Grand Armada was coming. 10,000 ships of crystal and fire. The most powerful military force the galaxy had ever seen. But something was waiting for them. Something they had never encountered before. Something that did not know how to surrender. Humanity was ready for war. And somewhere in the darkness, Admiral Elena Vance looked at the stars and whispered words that only she could hear. Come and find us, Valkorians. Come and learn what humans are made of. The storm was gathering, and soon it would break. The Grand Armada entered human space on a cold Tuesday morning. 10,000 Valkorian warships moved through the darkness like a river of silver light. Each ship was a work of art, crystal hulls that glowed from within, weapons that could crack a moon in half, engines that bent the fabric of space itself. High Commander Vara stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. It was the largest ship in the Armada, a vessel built to crush civilizations. He watched the stars slide past and felt nothing but boredom. Where's the human fleet? He asked. His officers checked their sensors. They checked again. Then they looked at Varath with confused expressions. We cannot find them, High Commander. The space ahead is empty. No ships. No defenses. Nothing. Varath's crystal body flickered with annoyance. They are hiding. Or they have run away. Either way, they are cowards. Continue forward. We will burn their colonies one by one until they show themselves. The Armada moved deeper into human territory. They passed empty stations, silent colonies, ships floating dead in space, abandoned by their crews. It seemed like humanity had fled in terror. Varath was pleased. This was what always happened. Every species eventually understood that fighting the Empire was pointless. The humans had simply accepted it faster than most. Set course for their homeworld, he ordered. This war is already over. The Armada entered the Kepler asteroid field. This was a vast region of space filled with rocks of every size. Some were as small as houses. Others were as large as mountains. The Valkorians paid no attention to them. Asteroids were not a threat to ships with crystal shields. They did not see the human vessels hiding among the rocks. 800 ships, powered down to minimum levels. Their crews sitting in darkness, barely breathing, waiting for the signal. Admiral Elena Vance floated in the command chair of the TSS Defiance. She watched the Valkorian Armada pass by on her screen. So close she could see the light pulsing inside their crystal hulls. So close she could almost reach out and touch them. She waited. She watched. She counted. When exactly half of the Armada had passed her position, she pressed a single button. All ships, she said into the comm. Operation Hornet's Nest. Execute. 800 human vessels came alive at once. Engines fired. Weapons powered up. And from every direction, from every hidden corner of the asteroid field, humanity attacked. The first wave hit the Valkorian ships before they could raise their shields. Human missiles tore into crystal hulls. Human lasers burned through engine rooms. Ships that had been celebrating victory suddenly exploded into fragments. Chaos. Total and complete chaos. The Valkorian commanders tried to respond. They sent orders through their communication channels. Form up, raise shields, return fire. But the human attack was too fast, too random. Two everywhere at once. Commander Yuki Tanaka led her squadron straight through the heart of the armada. Her small ship danced between the giant Valkorian vessels, firing at their weak points. Behind her, 20 pilots followed her exact movements. "Hit the engines," she shouted. "Cripple them before they can fight back." On the other side of the battlefield, Commander James Miller commanded the heavy assault group. Bigger ships, heavier weapons. They targeted the Valkorian command vessels, cutting the head off the snake. And in the center of it all, Elena Vance directed the battle like a conductor leading an orchestra. She saw everything. She knew everything. Her orders were short and clear, and her captains followed them without question. Delta Group, retreat and regroup. Gamma Group, hit Sector 7. Alpha Group covered the civilian transports. The battle raged for hours. Ships exploded on both sides. Human vessels died in bright flashes of light. But so did Valkorian vessels. For the first time in 12,000 years, the Grand Armada was bleeding. High Commander Varth stood frozen on his bridge. He watched his ships burn and could not understand what was happening. These humans were supposed to be primitive, weak, inferior. How were they doing this? Form the standard defense pattern. He screamed at his officers. Use Formation 9. Use Formation 12. But every time the Valkyrians tried to organize, the humans broke their lines apart. The human ships moved in patterns that made no sense. They attacked from angles that should have been impossible. They retreated before the Valkorians could respond, then attacked again from somewhere else. It was not war as the Valkorians understood it. It was madness. And in madness, the humans were masters. As the hours passed, the Armada finally began to adapt. Varth was old and experienced. He learned from his mistakes. Slowly, the Valkorian formation stabilized. Their shields came up. Their weapons found their targets. Human ships started dying faster. The TSS Horizon, protecting a transport full of refugees, took a direct hit to its engine core. The captain, a young woman named Sarah Wells, had 3 seconds to make a choice. She pointed her dying ship at the nearest Valkorian dreadnought and accelerated to maximum speed. The explosion destroyed both vessels. The refugees escaped. The TSS Mercy, its weapons gone and its hull cracked, broadcast a final message across all channels. Tell our families we held the line. Then it flew straight into a Valkorian command ship, taking dozens of enemy vessels with it in the blast. By the end of the day, humanity had lost half its fleet. 400 ships and thousands of lives gone forever. But the Valkorians had lost even more. 5,000 warships destroyed by creatures they had considered insects. Across the galaxy, other species watched in stunned silence. The numbers appeared on their screens, and they could not believe what they were seeing. The humans were losing. They were dying in terrible numbers. But they were taking the invincible Armada with them. On a small planet called Veth, a slave worker looked at the news and felt something stir in his heart. On a space station controlled by Valkorian guards, a prisoner whispered to her cellmate, "Did you see? The humans are fighting back." High Commander Vorath stood in the ruins of his bridge. Half his fleet was gone. Half his officers were dead. He had won more battles than he could count, but he had never experienced anything like this. What are these creatures? He whispered. No one answered, because no one knew. And somewhere in the darkness of space, Admiral Elena Vance looked at her losses and felt tears run down her cheeks. So many dead. So many good people gone. But she did not stop. She could not stop. "All surviving ships," she said into the comm, "fall back to position 2. We regroup. We repair. And then we fight again." The war was far from over. High Sovereign Maldois IX had not felt anger in 3,000 years. He was too old for such emotions, too powerful, too far above the small creatures who lived and died beneath his notice. But now, standing in his crystal palace, he felt rage burning inside him like a dark star. "Half the armada," he said slowly. "Half of our ships, destroyed by primitives." His advisors stood in silence. No one dared to speak. No one dared to move. The Emperor's anger was a death sentence. "I gave Vorath 10,000 ships, the greatest fleet in the history of our empire. And he has lost 5,000 to creatures who discovered fire a few moments ago." Maldois walked to his throne and sat down. The crystal chair was cold against his body. He thought about the humans. He thought about their strange behavior, their willingness to die, their refusal to surrender even when they were clearly losing. He did not understand them. And things he did not understand made him afraid. And things that made him afraid had to be destroyed completely. "Send the order," he said to his advisors. "Wake the Stellar Annihilator." The advisors gasped. Some fell to their knees. The Stellar Annihilator was the most terrible weapon in the galaxy. It had not been used in 8,000 years. It was a machine that could make a star explode. It could destroy an entire solar system in a single moment. "My Emperor," one advisor dared to whisper, "the other species will be angry. They will see us as monsters." "Let them," Maldois said. "Let them see what happens to those who defy us. Let the humans become a lesson that the galaxy never forgets. Wake the Annihilator. Point it at their sun. Give them one chance to surrender. And if they refuse, end them. End everything they have ever been or ever will be." The order went out across the stars. And in a hidden place, a weapon of unimaginable power began to wake from its long sleep. Admiral Elena Vance received the news on the bridge of the TS Defiance. Her ship was damaged. Her crew was exhausted. She had lost half her fleet and thousands of friends. But she stood straight and listened to the report without flinching. "The Stellar Annihilator," Commander Tanaka said quietly. "I thought it was a myth." "It is not a myth," Elena replied. "It is very real. And it is coming for our sun." The bridge was silent. Everyone understood what this meant. If the Annihilator reached Sol, if it fired its weapon, Earth would die. Mars would die. Every colony in the solar system would be burned to nothing. 8 billion lives would end in a flash of light. "How long do we have?" Elena asked. 12 hours. "The Annihilator fleet is moving slowly. They want us to see it coming. They want us to be afraid." Elena nodded. She looked at her crew. She saw fear in their eyes. Real, honest, deep fear. And she understood it. She felt it too, but she also felt something else. Something stronger than fear. She pressed the button that would broadcast her voice to every human in space. To every ship and every colony and every station. To Earth itself, where her daughter was probably sleeping right now, dreaming of horses. "This is Admiral Elena Vance," she said. "You have all heard the news. The Volcarians are sending their ultimate weapon. They want to destroy our sun. They want to end our species forever. They believe this will make us surrender." She paused. She looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, a machine of death was moving toward her home. But they do not understand us. They never have. They think we fight because we believe we can win. They think we resist because we are too stupid to see reality. But that is not why we fight. Her voice grew stronger, clearer. It filled every ship and every room and every heart. "We fight because we are human. We fight because our ancestors fought. When the ice covered the earth, they fought to survive. When plagues killed millions, they fought to find cures. When wars threatened to destroy everything, they fought for peace. Humanity has always faced impossible odds, and we have always refused to give up. She stood taller. Her eyes were bright with tears and fire. They think they can frighten us with death. But every human who has ever lived has known they will die. We have short lives, brief candles in an infinite darkness. And yet we have built civilizations. We have created arts and music and love. We have reached for the stars. Knowing we would die someday has never stopped us. It has made us stronger. She looked at Commander Tanaka, at her crew, at all the faces watching her across human space. Today, we remind the galaxy what humans are made of. Not because we know we will win. Not because we are sure we will survive. But because some things are worth fighting for, even when the fight seems hopeless. Freedom is worth fighting for. Our children are worth fighting for. Our future is worth fighting for. She pressed another button. The engines of the TSS Defiance roared to life. All ships that can still fly, follow me. We are going to stop the Annihilator. We are going to save our son. And we are going to show the Valkorians that humanity does not break. Humanity does not kneel. Humanity does not surrender. Across human space, ships began to move. Damaged vessels with cracked hulls and dying engines. Fresh ships that had just launched from Earth. Old ships that should have been retired years ago. 300 vessels. All that remained of the Terran fleet. They flew toward the Annihilator. They flew toward almost certain death. And not one of them turned back. On Earth, people gathered in the streets. They looked up at the sky. They held hands and prayed and cried and hoped. Mothers hugged their children. Lovers held each other close. Old men remembered their youth. And young women dreamed of futures they might never see. And on the TSS Defiance, Admiral Elena Vance watched the stars stream past and thought about her daughter. She thought about the painting of horses on her wall at home. She thought about all the things she might never see again. But she did not stop. She could not stop. Because some things were more important than survival. Some things were worth dying for. The final battle was about to begin. The Stellar Annihilator was a machine of nightmares. It was larger than a moon. Its surface was covered with devices that bent light and energy in ways that hurt to look at. At its heart was a core of captured starfire, held in place by technology so old that even the Valkorians had forgotten how it worked. It moved toward Sol with the remaining 5,000 ships of the Grand Armada around it like a protective shell. High Commander Vorath stood on his new flagship and watched the human sun grow larger on his screen. "They are coming," his officer reported. "The human fleet. 300 ships." Vorath made his glass-scraping laugh. 300 against 5,000. They have learned nothing. They will die, and then their son will die, and then this foolishness will finally end. But even as he spoke, something cold moved in his crystal heart. He had seen what these creatures could do. He had lost half his armada to their madness. He did not understand them. And now they were coming again, even though they had no chance of winning. What were these humans made of? Admiral Elena Vance led her fleet toward the Annihilator. Around her, 300 ships flew in loose formation. They were damaged and tired and outnumbered. But their crews had volunteered for this mission. Every single one of them. "This is it," Elena said over the comm. "We have one objective. Destroy the Annihilator before it can fire. Everything else is secondary. If you see an opening, take it. Do not wait for orders. Trust each other. And remember what we are fighting for." The two fleets met in the darkness between stars. The battle was like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships dove into the Valkorian formation with reckless courage. They died by the dozens, but they kept coming. They targeted the Annihilator's shield generators, its weapon systems, its power cores. Commander James Miller led his squadron straight at the Annihilator's main shield. His ship took hit after hit, its hull cracking, its engines failing. But he did not turn back. At the last moment, he ejected his crew in escape pods and aimed his dying vessel at the shield generator. The explosion tore a hole in the Annihilator's defenses. Commander Yuki Tanaka saw the opening. She did not hesitate. She pushed her engines beyond their limits and flew through the gap. Her squadron followed, firing everything they had at the Annihilator's core. "For Earth!" she shouted. "For humanity!" The Valkyrians tried to stop her. Ships moved to block her path. Weapons fired from every direction. Her squadron died around her, one by one, until only her ship remained. She could see the Annihilator's core now. A ball of captured sunfire, pulsing with deadly energy. It was preparing to fire. In seconds, it would release a beam that would travel to Seoul and make it explode. YUK, I had no weapons left. Her shields were gone. Her engines were failing, but she still had her ship. "Elena," she said into the com. "Tell my family I love them." Then she aimed her vessel at the core and flew into the fire. The explosion was beautiful and terrible. It ripped through the Annihilator's heart, breaking the ancient machine into 1,000,000 pieces. The captured starfire escaped and scattered into space, harmless now. Just light fading into darkness. The stellar Annihilator was destroyed. On the Thais Defiance, Elena Vance watched her friend die and felt her heart break. But she did not have time to cry. The battle was still happening. The Valkyrian fleet was still fighting. But something had changed. Across the galaxy, species that had lived under Valkyrian rule for thousands of years were watching. They saw the humans sacrifice everything to save their son. They saw small ships throw themselves at an invincible enemy. They saw creatures with lives as brief as candles burn brighter than stars. And something stirred in their hearts. Something that had been dead for a very long time, on a planet called Veth. A slave worker picked up a tool and looked at his Valkyrian masters. He remembered what it felt like to be free. He remembered what it felt like to hope. He was not alone. On 17 worlds, beings who had surrendered generations ago found their courage again. They rose up. They fought back. They remembered that even the mightiest empire could bleed. High Commander Vorath received the reports with growing horror. Rebellions everywhere. His supply lines were cut. His reinforcements were trapped. The Grand Armada, already weakened, was now completely alone. He looked at the human fleet. Half of them were dead now. But the other half were still fighting. Still refusing to give up. "What do you want?" He broadcast to them. "What will make you stop?" Admiral Elena Vance answered him. Her voice was tired but strong. "We want you to go home. We want you to leave us alone. We want freedom for every species you have enslaved." "Impossible," Vorath said. "The Emperor will never agree. Then the Emperor will lose his empire." And Vorath looked at the reports again. The rebellion spreading like fire. The Armada bleeding ships. The galaxy turning against Valkyrian rule. He made a decision. "Fall back," he ordered his fleet. "Fall back to Valkyrian space." The war was not over. But the battle was won. 100 years later, the galaxy looked nothing like it had under Valkyrian rule. The old empire was gone, replaced by a confederation where every species had a voice. Humans and Valkyrians and 100 other races worked together as equals. On the memorial at Seoul, where the Annihilator had been destroyed, a statue of Commander Yuki Tanaka stood against the stars. Below it, words were carved in every language known to the galaxy. They thought our mortality made us weak. They did not understand. It is because we know our time is short that we burn so bright. And on Earth, in a small house near the sea, an old woman sat with her grandchildren. She had gray hair and calm brown eyes and a quiet smile that never seemed to fade. "Tell us again, grandmother," the children said. "Tell us about the war." Admiral and Vance, long retired now, looked at their young faces. She thought about Yuki and James and all the others who had given everything so that these children could exist. Once upon a time, she said, the galaxy thought humanity was weak. They thought we would be easy to conquer. But they learned something that day. They learned that humans do not give up. They learned that we fight for each other. They learned that even the smallest species can change the universe if they are brave enough to try. She smiled at her grandchildren, the same smile she had shown the Valkorian ambassador all those years ago. The smile of triumph. And that, she said, is what it means to be human. The children smiled back. And somewhere in the stars, the light of 1,000 free worlds burned against the darkness. The story was over, but humanity was just beginning.